Here's our last tab. Now this is the only tab that involves a circular figure. And remember, when we're working with a circular figure, that means instead of using straight lines on the outside, we're going to have to find a straight line on the inside of the circle. So we use diameter to go all the way across the circle. We use radius to go halfway across the circle. So diameter would be the D, radius would be the R. And we see here they've also told us circumference would represent all the way around the outside of the circle, not the inside. Keep in mind, when we're working with round figures, we will be working with the pi symbol, and it represents a very long decimal. So for our purposes, we typically work with 3.14. If you are going to estimate a little more than just 3.14, sometimes I use the whole number 3 as my pi if I know that I can get close enough to what I need. Let's get the formula for the circle. To find the area of a circle, we're going to look on the formula chart. And the formula for finding the area of the circle is pi times radius squared. And remember, radius squared does not mean 2 times radius. That means radius times the same radius. In this example, I'm only going to give you the diameter so that you know how to find the radius. So we're going to use 10 centimeters as our diameter. In order to calculate the example, if we look at the formula, it asks for R. R is our radius, but be careful. All the way across the circle represents diameter. So this would be a D in the formulas. We don't want D, we want R. And if we look, diameter all the way across, well, it's the same distance from the middle of the circle to the outside, all the way around. So it wouldn't matter where we draw a radius, all these radiuses would be exactly the same. So we'll just go ahead and use the line that they have represented. We need to figure out what that radius is. Well, I know that radius is halfway across, diameter is all the way across, so radius is just half of the diameter. So take 10 centimeters, divide by 2, that gives me 5, which is half of the diameter. So we know our radius would be 5 centimeters. Now we can calculate the example using the formula. So we substitute the formula, and in place of pi, we're using 3.14 and multiply that times our radius squared. Our radius is 5 centimeters, so we are multiplying 5 times 5, not 5 times 2. That would 5 squared written out would be 5 times 5. You're going to need to practice your decimal calculating for using 3.14. So I found me some white space to do this, and I'm going to multiply. So 5 times 4 is 20. So I'm going to put the 0 of the 20 and regroup the tens place for 20. Now 5 times 1 is 5, and I have to add my 2. That gives me 7. 5 times 3 is 15. I don't have any more numbers to multiply, so I can put my 15 here. Now, I am finished with the 5. I'm going to mark that out so I don't get confused. Now I'm going to multiply the 2 times each number on the top row. When we do that, we have moved to the tens place in multiplying. That means we need to start multiplying in our recording our numbers in the tens place. So I like to use an X to just show that I'm skipping that position. And 2 times 4 gives me 8. I'm going to start with my 8 in the tens place of my calculations at the bottom. Then 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 3 is 6. Now I have to add these 2 rows of numbers. When I do that, be sure that you have lined up your numbers. One of the biggest problems I see is being messy and making silly mistakes. So let's add these up. I get 0. 7 plus 8 is 15, so I'm going to have to regroup my tens place. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 more is 8. And 6 plus 1 is 7. But I'm not finished. I still have a decimal up here that I have to consider. When we are working with multiplying, we don't have to line up the decimals. We are counting how many decimals are in our problem. So I'm going to count 1, 2 decimal places in this set of numbers, and there are no decimal places in the 25. So there's 0 decimal places here. Now if I add those together, 2 plus 0 means I need 2 decimal places in my answer. So I'm going to count, starting from the right, 2 places. 1, 2. So my answer has to have the decimal 2 places over. So now I know the area of my circle is 78.5 or a half centimeters squared. I'm using an exponent of 2 because I'm finding area. I calculated by multiplying 2 dimensions or 2 measures. So the area to cover the circle would be 78.5 centimeters squared. If you would like, you can write how to find the circumference of a circle either in the white space or in the back of this tab, just for reference. I'll be putting that in the next slide. When you're done with everything as far as examples and important information, I want you to go through and do some doodles to make things stand out. For example, you may want to put a little bubble around circle so that that one stands out. You may want to make some notes like I've done here. Don't forget, r squared means r times r, not times 2.